Hey buddy, it's Peter, and this is the 2025 Honda XR150L. It is a little tiny dual sport, but since we've been talking a lot about Honda's MiniMoto lineup, which is a 125cc, I thought it's worth talking about this one, which is a 150cc. What's interesting is this one has a combination of things that are new and things that are less new. So those retro bikes that we were showing in the MiniMoto lineup, like the Honda 150 or 125, or sorry, Honda Trail 125, which is sitting just off camera right there. It has things like an LED headlight. This one doesn't have that. It has LED signal lights. This one doesn't have that, but it is fuel injected. This one's carbureted, but this one's carbureted in a way that you don't have to fiddle with the choke. It's an automatic choke, so you've got modern suspension here, lots of differences between the bikes, and that makes this one worth talking about. And the reason I can talk about this is because I'm filming here at Riverview Honda, where they give me complete access to their entire vehicle lineup, even with the doors opening and closing. That's the noise in the background. But they give me complete access to their entire Honda lineup. So anything you want to see Honda, I get to come back to over and over again to make sure that you get everything you need. So if you want to help them out, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe. I'm going to cover every 2025 bike I can this year from all kinds of brands. And if you want to just help me out, just watch this video to the end. That helps me out a lot. All right, let's get going with this review. So I always try to place the bikes in a class, and of course classes are very kind of fluid these days. This is a dual sport bike. It is set up as it comes from the factory a little bit more for the road as far as a tire situation goes. It's also fairly road friendly as far as overall seat height. What that means is it's approachable, you can take it on the road, and you can take it on light off-road. Now the bike itself is more capable off-road than the tires, so we'll talk about that. If you want to upgrade the tires, you can do that. But this is a lightweight dual sport bike, but it has a more comfortable seat. We'll talk about that a little bit. And it has a rack, so it's almost like a mini adventure bike, you could say. All right, let's get going and start looking at components of this bike. We'll start at the front wheel. So if you've seen my videos before, you know I love to start with the front wheel because it tells you the manufacturer's intent of the bike. And although I said this is more road oriented with the tire, we'll talk about how it's very much off-road oriented. Now this is a tube type tire. A lot of people always ask me that, so it is a tubed tire. It's a 90-90-19, so it's a 19-inch front wheel. Typical dirt bike size, smaller dirt bike than a big adventure bike, which would go up to 21, but 19 is a very common front wheel size. Again, the tire itself is capable off-road. It has the tread, but it's going to be not a true dirt bike tire. It's a little more on-road, off-road. It's certainly going to take you to lighter off-road. Now, as I said before, the bike is more capable of off-road than the tires because you've got 7.1 inches of travel. So if you're comparing this to like a Trail 125, you've got significantly more front wheel travel here than you do on the Trail 125, along with having a bigger or higher displacement engine. Spoke wheels, of course, it's an off-road bike, and then you have the disc in here, so it's disc brakes, of course. There's no ABS on this. That's one thing worth pointing out. The Trail 125 has front ABS. This one does not have ABS. For a lot of people off-road, they don't want ABS, and that's fine. Just something to keep in mind if it's a beginner bike for you, no ABS on this bike. Let's move back and take a look at the heart of this bike. So the oversized power plant here is a 149cc, bigger than the 124cc you see in the MiniMoto lineup, and it is carbureted like we mentioned before. So carburation usually used to have a choke involved. You had to play with the choke as you get going. You don't have to do that. You hit the start button, it's good to go. So that's kind of nice. It gives you the carburation, which if you work on your own bike, some people like to have carburation, fuel injection, but one thing you don't want to have to fiddle with is a choke these days. It is 2025 after all, so you don't have to mess with the choke. You just hit the start button, you're pretty much good to go. And it is an air-cooled, small displacement Honda bike, and that makes it just super reliable, super simple. There's like literally millions of people that have learned on an air-cooled, small displacement Honda bike, including myself. So a couple nice things you have here. The exhaust is routed up and through, so you've got it, a little heat shield here, but it stays up out of the way of any damage there. You've got good ground clearance here. I'll tell you what that is in a second because I just forgot what it is. The exhaust comes through and mounts high, so typical dirt bike stuff. And then the frame design itself is going to give you some extra protection underneath if you ever crash it into stumps or something like that as you're off-roading. So you've got just all the basics right here. A very simple bike, which is what you want usually. It's inexpensive to buy, it's simple, it's going to last forever because it's a Honda. These things just go and go. And then again, very good controls here. Not a massive foot peg here. You do have a rubber foot peg. I think it might have serration underneath. Yeah, so you can take that rubber out and you have that proper serrated off-road type peg there. Some people may want to upgrade this peg to a little bit bigger peg. This is A little small for like an adventure type bike, but totally fine for what you've got here. We're gonna show you what it looks like with me on this bike in a second, but I wanna come back to the rear suspension because it's worth mentioning before we jump on this bike. So taking a look at the rear suspension just in front of the rear wheel and the swing arm here, you can see that it is placed well forward, that shock, and it is a single shock. So again, compared to something like the Trail 125, Trail 125 has shocks coming down here and there's one on each side. This is a single shock moved forward. So weight distribution is all modern on this bike. That's what you want to see, is you want to have things pushed forward and low, and that's going to give you a little more traditional handling to what we kind of are used to these days on these kind of bikes. So that 5.9 inches of wheel travel, so just about 6 inches of wheel travel here, a little bit less in the front, just over 7 inches of wheel travel in the front, about 6 inches of wheel travel in the rear, and you have 9.6 inches of ground clearance, so far more ground clearance. Again, the bike is going to be far more capable off-road than the initial tires allow. And I'm not saying these tires are terrible, I just know that in the dual sport crowd, tires are such a area of contention. I would happily ride this with my skill on-road, off-road, but of course, if you're coming straight from a dirt bike into something like this, you're gonna have a lot more knobbies. These are gonna be a little bit more road-oriented. They have a nice sort of shape to them for the road, which is nice, and you do have a lot of tread on the road, but again, it's fully capable of going down all those dirt roads, those trails, and if you wanna upgrade those tires, you can get through the mud and all kinds of other stuff. So, pretty nice to have that more modern design here compared to that MiniMoto lineup. I should mention the 17-inch rear wheel here is a 110 wide, so much larger than the MiniMoto lineup, especially the Trail 125 that we were talking about. All right, let's hop on this bike and show you what it looks like with someone my size on it. I should also mention before we do that, passengers are available. There's a passenger peg there. We'll talk about that more in a second. So hopping on this bike actually feels more like hopping on a street bike. It is a little bigger than that MiniMoto lineup, but it's also not super intimidating. So although you get almost 10 inches of ground clearance, that 9.6 inches of ground clearance, I am a 6-footer flat footing. It does squat a little bit under my weight, but you can see it's not a whole lot. So while you do lose some ground clearance, you still have quite a bit, even with someone about my weight. I'm about 175 pounds or so, but you can see over here, I fit comfortably on this bike. It is definitely a bigger feeling, a taller feeling, and a little bit more spaced out feeling than some of the MiniMoto lineup. And again, that bigger front wheel, the geometry of having that front wheel out, the rear wheel back, it does give you a little more space. It gives you a little more feel out on the trail. So again, this is a more playful bike than something like the Trail 125, but the Trail 125 is pretty cool. So both are gonna take you off-road. This is certainly gonna be able to take you further off-road, and you have the ability to sort of stand on the foot pegs here. You have the ability to really move around on this bike. You've got the tank between you so you can control the bike. This is gonna be a more engaging off-road ride than something like the Trail 125. And it's a more traditional modern motorcycle. Now, you do have that rear seat here. We're gonna talk about rear seat both for a passenger, which again, it's still a 150cc bike. You're not gonna wanna take passengers a long ways, but you can take them around town. But I wanna talk about this little rack system here as well, because I think this opens up some cool opportunities to go places, to have fun, whether it's just day trips or even longer if you wanted to, on a simple bike. So let's pull you in, take a look at the seat, and then we'll take a look at the dash and move from there. So taking a look at the seat here, I didn't talk a whole lot about the comfort, but you do have a lot of cush here, and it does widen out to the back here and narrow at the front. A lot of dirt bikes are a little more rectangular through here and narrower through here. So this feels like a mini adventure seat more than just a pure dirt bike seat. You do have more comfort here than on a lot of other bikes, even much bigger bikes. So that's a good thing. And then you have a decent sized rear seat here. Now again, you could take a passenger, legally you're allowed to, but what I love about those rear seats there is it's mounted exactly like a modern adventure bike would be, basically level with the rack. The rack here is standard. This is not an accessory, but that rack basically level with the seat allows you to take any duffel bag, any dry bag, anything you want, and now all of a sudden you've got that much space, which is significant to take a lot of gear with you. So if you were going on a weekend adventure and wanted to just find some back roads and some dirt roads and that kind of thing and stay off the main roads, this bike can absolutely do that, sipping fuel the whole way. You've got little hooks down here underneath the rack. Let me see if I can sort of see that there. Let's just zoom in for a second. I know you can see them, but we'll see them a little bit better here. There we go. So little hooks down here. You've got them several ways across here. So one there, one there. Let's just get the camera down a little bit lower again. And you've got one over here, right? So what that allows you to do is it gives you a place to tie things down. Now the rack itself isn't rated for a whole ton of weight, but the seat can carry some weight. So you could take a good amount of luggage on this bike, and that's where it moves you from the dirt bike. You've got a bit more of a touring capability, which again, I know a lot of people aren't thinking about this, but versatility is a big thing I look for in a bike. And this does give you some great versatility to head down some backcountry roads, to head down any dirt road you want, to go camping, go other places. It's a small little bike, but hey, if you can do it on the Trail 125 with its huge rack, why not do it on this bike, which has a smaller rack, but a larger rear seat? You can take all kinds of stuff, and again, you're getting more suspension travel, more engine displacement, and a little bit more capability, I think, for sure, than you would on a Trail 125. If the Trail 125 is cool, this one is cool in the sense that it's practical. What do you want to do on your rides? That's part of what you have to ask yourself. All right, let's take a look at the dash here. Take a look at the dash, you find one thing that is very hard to find in a modern motorcycle. Sure, you could find a dial style or an analog style speedometer, but see the tachometer? These things actually roll. They roll forward, and I've actually probably put a 1/10 of a kilometer on this thing here in the trip odometer there while rolling it to over here. So you do have an analog speedometer, and then you have signal lights, high beam lights, and neutral light. I haven't got the battery plugged in right now, so that's the lights that are on there. Simple, simple, simple. That's all you need to know when you're riding this bike. And of course, you've got the analog speedometer, which is nice to have. Keep in mind, this is like an 80 kilometer an hour, 50 mile per hour road tops. You don't really want to go faster than that. I don't know that you can go much faster than that. So that's kind of if you're planning to go somewhere, what you're looking at. But you can see what you're doing, see what's going on. And again, simple, simple, simple. That's the key with this bike. Now, usually when you see, at least in the motorcycle industry today, when you see these old gauges, you get the old crappy kind of switch gear. Honda doesn't necessarily give you low quality stuff. So let's take a look at the switch gear real quickly. So over here, clutch side, nice light clutch there. You've got your high beam right there, and low beam, of course, always on. Your signal lights right there. Nice push to cancel. And then you've got your horn down here as well. All of these feel quality. A lot of bikes in this class, or even in this sort of retro style dirt bikey kind of thing, they feel like they've just got chintzy, old-fashioned controls. This feels like modern switchgear. Now, it's not the modern switchgear Honda uses on all of their modern bikes, but it doesn't feel cheap. And to me, that's a good thing. We'll show you the other side just really quickly. So over here, throttle side, you've got your kill switch that'll stop the engine right there. You got your start switch right there. But again, a little bit more modern switch gear than you would have. Now, one thing I find is the handles grip or hand grips here are very dirt bikey, right? So that can be something that you definitely want to wear gloves with. It's great for grip. It's great if your hands get a little bit dirty. But you want to keep in mind that you're going to want to wear gloves with this. You should wear gloves anyways when you ride. But that's the sort of, these style hand grips really need a, if you're gripping that handle for a while, you're going to want some gloves on there. So again, nothing wrong with that, just something worth noting. So let's talk about who this bike is actually for. So this bike has an obvious market, right? It's a lightweight, small displacement, street legal dual sport. So it can take you off-road, it can take you on-road, and it does that inexpensively to buy new. It's a Honda, so it's gonna last forever. Maintenance is simple and easy. That's the obvious market. What I think makes this bike stand out a little bit is a little bit more comfortable seat with a lot of space. Having this rack on the back standard means you're set up to do your adventures, even with just a duffel bag. You wanna go camping just overnight or go out for a road trip for an entire day, you could actually do that on this bike. It's comfortable enough you could do that. If you find a dirt road you want to explore, head down it. If you find a rough country road you want to explore, head down it. Anywhere you want to go, you can go on this bike, other than, long stints down the interstate or that kind of thing. But it's comfortable enough and it's capable enough to really do a lot of the riding that a lot of us do on bigger bikes. This is a 150cc. I drive a 950cc 4-cylinder, and this thing will easily go on most of the roads I go on anyways, as far as the country roads, that kind of thing. It won't go as fast, and you expect that. It'll get better fuel efficiency, but it can head down all those dirt roads into a trail, all kinds of fun. If you drop it, it's still dirt bike friendly plastic, so you can pick it back up. It's simple, and it's fun, and it's inexpensive. And again, for someone who looks for a lot of versatility in bikes, this is a dual sport that's just a little bit more versatile by being able to take your school bag, by being able to take your lunch with you, your gym bag, that kind of thing. So it's the kind of bike that you might zip out to the store, strap a bag on from the grocery store, and take things back home. It's the kind of bike you're gonna use for more than just pleasure rides. You can use it as a practical ride, and that makes sense to me. So that's why I have to praise this bike, is it's a simple bike. Sure, it's not super powerful, but if the MiniMoto line can sell, this thing should sell well as well. And Riverview Honda knows it. They brought in a bunch of these this year because this is a popular bike out here in Fredericton, New Brunswick. We've got a lot of roads, we've got a country roads. Some of those country roads aren't great. Having the extra suspension travel helps, and a lot of little dirt roads that are super fun to explore. So that is what this bike is perfect for. It's relatively quiet, it's fuel efficient, it's all cheap to run, cheap to insure, cheap to buy as well. And again, it's the kind of thing that's going to hold its value. The MiniMoto lineup is for a specific crowd. This is going to be a little bit more versatile for all kinds of people. So I think this is a great little bike, especially a great bike for the money if that's what you're interested in, especially if you're interested in a bike that gives you a little bit of versatility. So there is my review of this pretty awesome dual sport bike from Honda, this entry-level dual sport from Honda. If this is where Honda starts, it kind of shows you why they're, the things like the Rally, the 300 CRF 300 Rally is so good. Again, smaller bike, but just a great little mini adventure bike. This is almost the mini adventure bike version of that. Super cool. Thanks everybody for watching. And again, we'll have all kinds of more videos. If you haven't hit the subscribe button or follow, please leave a comment. That kind of thing really helps us out. And I really appreciate you watching to the end. There'll be a whole lot more coming very soon.